Welcome back to Tailosive Tech Live on YouTube. Sometimes Apple listens to me, and sometimes they do wrong things. They make mistakes. Today, allegedly, is one of those days if the information from the information ends up being correct, which is allegedly that Apple has abandoned the low-cost TV dongle, but they're looking to double new Apple TV Plus content in 2022, because that's clearly what people were asking for, right? We need more Ted Lasso and less TV dongle because there's nothing wrong with this streaming box here? Okay, let's jump through it. Sources said to be familiar with Apple's plans seeking to the information have apparently revealed many of the company's internal discussions and attitudes around Apple TV Plus in detail. The company allegedly sees Apple TV Plus as a standalone business rather than a mechanism to encourage users to buy into the Apple ecosystem. Right, of course, because that would make sense. Why would we want people buying Apple hardware, building something into their ecosystem? That's a terrible idea. What we would much rather have them do is spend $5 a month to watch Ted Lasso. I don't care if it's a good show. Information reported in 2018 that Apple was working on a low-cost TV dongle device as a more inexpensive alternative to the Apple TV, which starts at $149. The project was driven by Tim Twerdall, an Apple video and audio marketing executive, who argued that a low-cost TV device would make it more affordable for users to access. Wow. Not just Apple TV Plus, but can we acknowledge that this has a great operating system, it has a great remote, but the box itself is too expensive, and literally everyone else in the TV streaming industry has moved on to the dongles, which are cheaper, and they don't take up space on your TV stand. They can hide gracefully behind the TV as to support a more minimalistic approach. Why is that such a bad thing? Greg Joswiak and Phil Schiller, of course, who's now gone, reportedly overruled, insisting that Apple should not begin making cheap, low-margin devices due to its potential to damage its reputation for premium products. That's the best you got, Phil? You're worried about it damaging Apple's reputation as a luxury brand? That's why we're not making this thing? Where was Phil when the HomePod Mini was pitched? Right? Why bother making a HomePod Mini? Doesn't that low-margin, cheaper, more affordable product insinuate that Apple's not a luxury brand? No, of course not. Because your luxury products, your expensive products, are obvious as to why you're a luxury brand. But it's okay to have cheap alternatives for those who care for it. That's why the HomePod Mini exists. That's why the iPhone SE exists. That's why the budget iPad exists. The best-selling iPad is the cheapest one. Does that make them come across as a luxury brand to sell a $300 tablet? Don't think so. Agreed, Tommy. Wish they made Apple TV cheaper, not going to lie. Exactly. It's a dated model. Even if they didn't make it cheaper, just the idea that you have to have this big box that sits on a TV stand somewhere, or you got to buy a mounting kit to put it like behind the TV so that it's hard to see and that kind of thing. It's pretty important to uphold that reputation. Yeah, but the TV streaming stick was not going to break that. The iPhone SE, you could argue, breaks that. The budget iPad breaks that. It doesn't really matter whether or not they're perceived as a luxury brand. The luxury brand products are the Pro iPhones, the Pro iPads, the Mac Pro, the Mac Pro wheels. It's all that garbage that makes Apple come across as a luxury brand. If we're just talking about having cheaper options, that's a ridiculous. AirTags, $30. Doesn't that impede on Apple's luxury brand? Why don't we get rid of AirTags? Is that recap? Is Apple making TV boxes forever? It sounds like they've basically scrapped the project entirely, according to the information, because Apple's worried about their brand reputation being damaged at the idea of a lower cost streaming dongle. I'm not saying dirt cheap. I'm not saying a $20 streaming dongle. I'm just saying lower than $150 maybe. Is that at all possible? I would, even if it was the same price, I would rather have a streaming dongle because I don't like having to, I have my TV mounted on the wall. And if I'm going to power it through a tvOS optimized device, I would rather it hide behind the TV instead of taking up space on my TV stand, which I would rather keep clean for pictures and photos and that kind of thing. So I don't understand this logic at all. It makes no sense to me. If anything, it's quite infuriating because I love tvOS. It's not just a matter of, I don't care about the basics of like, okay, your TV can open Netflix and YouTube and open streaming services. My Roku that's built into my current TV can do that. It's not great at it. I prefer tvOS and I prefer the Siri remote, but it's so freaking expensive to get a hold of that, especially if you want the 4K one. It's $180. And I think with the advancements in Apple Silicon to make low-powered, cost-effective chips, you know, you can throw an A13 chip in a $400 iPhone. You can throw an A12 chip in a $300 iPad. On Tuesday, we're probably going to see a freaking A13 or A14 chip coming to the $300 iPad. And if you're able to get chips that cheap, making a platform, tvOS is so basic. You don't need advanced silicon to power something that just plays content. And don't give me that, well, it's used for gaming crap. Like, that isn't, people are not playing that many games on their Apple TV. Let's be honest. Let's just get real here for a minute. Most of the time, this TV streaming stuff is the majority of what people are using it for. And, oh, wait. Sorry for the Starlink. Got a super chat from Alpha. Thank you very much. He says, TV Stick is the same camp as 16-inch MacBook Air. I think TV Stick would sell in much higher volume and make a much larger difference. tvOS could have a much larger audience base if it had a... Oh! Check it out. Alpha donated $2. Animations are back, by the way. Thank you for the super chat. It's a little delayed, but yeah, I do have them showing up on screen if you want to watch them. But Loner Boy Beat says, I agree, Drew. I love the little Fire Stick. It's like ours, not even there. A 6 chip for Apple TV. I don't know if the Apple Watch chips are cheap enough, but you don't even need a screen. Yeah, you could save so much money with those devices. I don't understand why Apple shies away from that. For the same reason, like HomePod Mini is a great selling point for Apple Music. If you want more people... Ooh. Thank you, Start Select, for becoming a supporter. Appreciate that very much. He closed his rings. I don't know what those have anything to do with it, but... thank you for becoming a member. Appreciate that. All your guys' support. Sorry for Starlink acting up. Devo's asking how is Starlink. It's doing great at just about everything other than live streaming. That I just saw the frame drops earlier. So you know what? I think it would probably be better if I went out and cleaned it because there's been a lot of ash. There's a lot of smoke in the air. So why don't I go clean it real quick? I'll be right back. All right. Think I got it. Hopefully that results in the connection being a little bit better, but if not, I can always run out there. The door is right there. That's why I'm able to transition so fast. But I'm gonna cancel my membership and rejoin just for the animation. Well, basically, there are several different ways to get various animations. Lower end super chats get the Touch ID. Higher end super chats get Face ID. Really high end super chats get the activity rings, and then new members get activity rings, and then we get to finally make use of the air power sound effect, which we'll never hear. Okay. What on earth? I had to clean the dish, Ryan, of course. Max Hunter says, Apple could just go ahead and make an actual TV. I would definitely buy that. Don't care if it doesn't add anything new. Just want native tvOS and a beautiful Apple display. I would be very interested in that. I wish they would at this point, because anything would be better than having to have a big box that sits under my TV all day. I would much rather just have... Yeah, that would be great. If the thing is, I know if Apple made their own TV, it would be substantially expensive, because they would want it to have all the great dynamic range, and they would want it to have all the great contrast ratios and all this super fancy brightness. So I know if Apple made their own TV, they would not go for like the entry-level TV market, right? Because that would damage their brand reputation. But in replacement of a low-cost streaming stick, Apple's approach was to just bring the Apple TV app that has access to TV Plus and different, all of your iTunes movies and stuff. You can get that app on Samsung TVs and Roku, and you can access that application elsewhere. But I still don't think that's a good, legitimate reason to not make a streaming stick. It's like you can bring Apple Music to Android, and you could bring Apple Music to Google speakers or Amazon Echo speakers, but that doesn't mean you don't need a HomePod Mini. Start Select says, I've been meaning to sign up for membership for a while. We had a Starlink satellite fall out of orbit yesterday. It burnt up over the UK. Really? I didn't hear about that. What's the cheapest way to get Airplay on your TV? Probably to buy a smart TV that already has Airplay compatibility. Like, I don't have an Apple TV. I just have a Roku that's built in to my TCL TV, which was like $400, but I love it. It was really cheap, and it's 4K, 55 inches. It's got integrated speakers that sound really nice, and it's my pet peeve to have more than one remote. So I love that I can change HDMI inputs and control the content as I'm watching it through just a singular remote. I can change the volume from that, and it took a bit of work to get when I reviewed the Apple TV, to get my Siri remote doing everything at once, but it can be done. But I would love to bypass that whole setup process and just have a television that came with tvOS built in, and it came with the Siri remote. And just like you have all those tiles with tvOS to choose from, imagine if some of those tiles were like HDMI 1, HDMI 2. So if you have other things plugged into the TV that you want to switch to, you'd be able to from the native tvOS home screen. Tommy says, highly priced TV would finally be something new for rich people to show off with, would sell like crazy in some new markets. Yeah, because I know like tvOS and Apple TVs in general are very, very popular among more premium demographics. And if Apple, you care so much about being a luxury brand, and you're making your own original content and all that, and you want to flex how great the resolution and dynamic range is and Dolby Atmos and stuff, why not make a television yourself with all the great, okay, it's great for Apple Arcade because it has a powerful M1 TV. That's what I'm suggesting. Slap an M1 chip in there, and the graphics are great, so you can, if you're saying that M1 is overkill for a TV, well, I'm gonna go ahead and say M1's overkill for an iPad, but it's anytime you bring that up, people just go, headroom, right? You want to have headroom, you want to have longevity. Okay, same thing for the TV. It's a stationary product. People most of the time buy those things, put them up, and then they keep that TV for 8 to 10 years because it doesn't move, and people are happy with the TV they have. So if we're going to make the argument of overhead, then yeah. I mean, I would love a much cheaper Apple TV dongle still, even if they made dedicated TVs, because I love the idea of being able to convert old screens that are not smart TVs or old monitors into AirPlay compatible devices, right? Like, because right now you'd have to buy either a Roku stick or a Fire TV stick, and that's not even completely first party because you have to go through and settings and turn on the AirPlay settings and all that to get it compatible with HomeKit and everything. So I feel like there's a way Apple can retain their luxury status without having to, skimp out on making products that I think would sell objectively better and be very, very practical to the average user. So that's frustrating. And honestly, even if it wasn't cheaper, I feel like it's just time to let go of this little streaming box idea of having a little... Thank you, Riley McGinnis, for becoming a supporter. $2 a month, you get access to custom emojis, upcoming video updates, and all that. Helps me out, helps me pay for all these expensive tech products and all that. So I think there's just so much more. There's so much better things they could be doing with the Apple TV division, aside from just, let's make more TV Plus content. That would be fantastic, right? So I'm disappointed to see that they want to scrap it over that argument alone in particular. Just kind of frustrates me. Turning on my Roku with HomeKit never works for some reason. Yeah, I believe you. Virgil, thank you for becoming a supporter. Appreciate it very much. Thank you. Sebastian Kilodi says, just figured out a couple days ago I can use Apple TV as a wireless second screen for my Mac, just like Sidecar. Oh yeah, Airplay. Of course. You didn't know that? Come on. It's been a feature for a long time, actually. Seriously. But yeah, there's just a little bit of latency. Stop with the TV by a AAA gaming company. Which one, Tony? I guess that would be my follow-up question. Clark Hazard says the Apple TV screen would have a chin and white bezels. No. Oh, God. Okay, I take back what I said. Make a good TV. Don't make an ugly one. Luxury brands like Mercedes have base model cheaper cars. Yeah, I mean, the HomePod Mini is sold so well, Apple's getting rid of the full-size HomePod. They're just not producing that anymore. I don't get the argument. People hold on to TVs for 10 plus years. People still use their second and third generation Apple TVs. Yeah, I know people that are still rocking third generation Apple TVs. That's even more of a reason to make a dongle that you can add to your old TV, or give it plenty of overhead with a fairly capable chip. I'm not against them putting the A12 chip in the Apple TV. It's just to not do anything with the price is, I think, my bigger issue. Drew, did you calm down in the last 4 days? No. I'm just as upset. If anything, I'm more frustrated than I was 4 days ago. Start Select says, if they could get a decent Apple TV for under $99, it would make a solid stocking filler gift. Last year, my parents got a HomePod Mini. Looks like they're just getting AirTags this year. Yeah, I agree. I think that getting a product under $100 makes it totally a hot ticket item for birthdays, for graduation, for Christmas gifts, especially because TVs are everywhere now. Like, so many people have different flat screens and dumb old flat screens that obviously they don't want to go through the process of buying a whole giant new TV. They don't want to do all that. They just want to get something that's slightly updated and slightly smart. And I guess, it'd be interesting if they at least experimented with letting the iPhone become your remote and maybe just selling the dongle by itself without the Siri remote, because I know that adds to the overall cost of the product. Like, selling the Siri remote separately now is just $60. And if they threw that out, how much could they save on the overall package, especially if you made it, not a giant box with a cooling system and instead just very little, iPod-sized stick that came out through HDMI and it hung out the back, that kind of thing. I bet they could get it far under $100. Oh, thanks, Alpha, for the super chat. What are selling points of the box besides remote? I really love tvOS. The layout and the fluidity of it is far better than the Roku or even the Fire TV, in my opinion. The AirPlay compatibility, which you can get in third parties, but it's just more integrated with tvOS. And I think that's the main thing. Just the navigation. That updated remote I really fell in love with when I last reviewed it. So I want to be able to use that without having to spend $180, which is ridiculous to me. $1 Snake says, do you still use an iPad Pro for thumbnails? Yep, every day. Not changing. Apple TV soundbar would actually be a nice idea. Yeah, I think that there might be some future potential with that, because it sounds like, the HomePod is selling, the HomePod is running a heavily modified version of tvOS, which is where I thought Apple was going to go earlier this year when it was leaked that Apple was hiring people to work on HomeOS. And when I saw that, I was like, HomeOS would be the perfect platform to kind of combine the operating systems the Apple TV is running and the HomePod, because eventually Apple will probably want to get in. Apple might want to get into the game, similar to, they're in the smart speaker market now, which was first started by Amazon and then Google. And you'll notice both Amazon and Google are now doing hub devices that not only play music and you can talk to them as digital assistants, but they also have a little display. And I know that people think that overlaps with the iPad a bit, but I feel like making kind of a home hub, if you will, that has, good sounding speakers like the HomePod Mini, but it has a little display on it and it's stationary, it would be substantially cheaper likely than an iPad, and it would be its own separate dedicated device. So you could be this is the perfect FaceTime / kitchen accessory that you could buy for a lot of people. Don't have to spend as much money as an iPad. If it's basically under $300, which I believe the Nest Hubs are, and the HomePod Mini's around $100. So if it was around the $200 or $250, that's cheaper than the cheapest iPad. And you could talk to it. It would play great music. It would have great sound quality. And you could do your secure HomeKit security feed through there. So if someone rings the doorbell, it shows up on the camera. You can tell it to play something on YouTube, play something on Apple TV Plus, and then you're watching Ted Lasso as you're washing dishes and that kind of thing. So kind of merging these two product categories into more of a home operating system above all, I could see making sense. Clark Hazard says, I personally don't mind my Apple TV 4K box. It doesn't even take up a super big amount of room. I know it's not a large amount of room. I'm just saying it's been the same for so long. I think what probably frustrates me the most about a lot of Apple products isn't necessarily that there's inherently something wrong with the current iteration. It's that it's not going anywhere. Like, that's what I've been arguing about across Discord and Twitter a lot today. There's nothing inherently wrong with iPad Pros as they are now. It's just they have not changed in years. They've been capable of doing some light photo editing, some entry-level video editing, and not much more than that since 2015. And ever since then, all they've done is quick notes, slightly different multitasking, and they don't really come up with more functional or more practical use cases. I want to see it grow. In today's world, we have Apple Silicon, which can be very powerful and consume a very small amount of energy. It can fit into a very small space. We know how small the Mac Mini is on the inside. So if you were able to manufacture a far cheaper Apple TV that doesn't take up any space at all on your TV stand. I know the old one doesn't take up a lot, but it's 2021 and there's Roku sticks now and Fire TV sticks, and they're 4K. They're not like toned down streaming sticks. They're able to play really high resolution content and be far cheaper than the Apple TV, and they don't take up any space. So with Apple, with all their resources and all their engineering, I don't understand why they're the type of company that can't make that work, where instead of a little streaming box on your stand, it's not there at all. It just goes away entirely. Apple may even be prepping for this with bringing FaceTime support to Windows and Android. Possibly. It sounds like they're at least taking the first steps to get FaceTime outside of the ecosystem, compete with Zoom a little bit. Start Select says, so HomePod audio quality, HDMI out to a TV, runs tvOS, and has video calling features with things like iPad Pro Center Stage. Yes, I think I did a video on this a while back, but yeah, the idea being okay, let's say Apple doesn't want to make the dongle because they're stupid and they want it to be a luxury brand or whatever. All right, so we got to have a little box. We need a separate box that comes out of the TV itself, via HDMI. So like you're saying, instead of having just this useless, doesn't really serve any purpose, there's not even really any buttons on it, instead of just having this black box with a light on it, let's turn that into a sound bar, HomePod Max, HomePod Pro, whatever you want to call it, and it docks with the TV, but the TV is in the soundbar itself, and within the soundbar, you can have a center stage camera for FaceTime calls while you're in the living room television. That way you don't have to just do FaceTime on your iPad or your iPhone. It still comes with the Siri remote, and you still have fully fledged tvOS and decent CPU. Charge, I don't know, $500, $600 for that. You get great sound quality. It works with your old TV. Apple gets to retain their luxury brand status or whatever. I think there's a perfect product there, and yet Apple's like, no, let's just pour more into TV Plus content. Ugh. Let's see. HDMI out would be nice to have on the Apple TV box. Example, I can picture-in-picture my PS5 and watch YouTube together. Requires a lot of tethering, but yeah, I get what you mean. You got to get cables from the TV to the box, and then to the box to the PlayStation. It would be much easier if Apple just built a frickin' TV themselves. Let's see. Who's responding to Tony? How does any of this stuff make Apple any money? Well, it's $180 for the 4K Apple TV, but I have a feeling that it definitely does not cost to make that much. I don't think some products Apple sells, I think the margins on are fairly low. Believe it or not, as much as a luxury brand as they are, I don't think that the margins on the $300 iPad are very high. I'm not saying they don't exist, but my guess is Apple is comfortable selling an iPad that cheap because they know they can upsell people who buy that iPad on an $80 smart cover or a $150 keyboard case or a $100 Apple Pencil. So there's all these accessories to upsell people on. They're okay with the entry price being so low. Same thing with the iPhone SE. That's intended to be a lower cost, much more affordable iPhone, but Apple's hoping to rope people into iCloud membership because no one can live with 5 gigs of iCloud, trying to get you into Apple TV Plus and Apple Arcade and Apple Music, and that's just the entry-level point. It's like, okay, they don't care about hardware, but they might like iMessage and FaceTime. This is a cheap way to access that. Gets you in the ecosystem, and I think that the Apple TV, more so than probably any other product category, let me think about that for a second. Okay, Mac has got the Mac Mini. That's a pretty entry-level price point. $700 for a device with the M1. That's pretty dope. Pretty powerful and all that. So they've got the entry-level Mac Mini. We've got the iPhone SE, which is $400. Pretty, I mean, some people might not call that budget. I'll say for an iPhone, that's pretty dang cheap. A brand new one, especially with the A13 chip still. iPad has got the $300 budget option, and HomePod's got the HomePod Mini. AirPods has got the $160, basic AirPods without the wireless charging case. They've got all these entry-level trims, these cheap ways to enter the ecosystem. Oh, Sarah McCargo, thank you for becoming a member. Appreciate that. We've got all these little entry-level options. Why not have one for the Apple TV? I'm not saying everyone has to buy it, but I think a ton of people would. And I think, honestly, I could be wrong, but I think there's probably a ton of people in my situation where they're like, yeah, tvOS is cool. I like the new Siri remote. I love the trackpad / clicker. Like, I still sometimes wish I had that old remote, but the reason I don't have that remote today is because I could not justify spending $180 on that little box. But if it was under 100 or at least 99, that would be so much more obtainable, so much more defensible. I'd be like, okay, that's still a little up there, but frankly, I think there are a bunch of people that won't get a new Apple TV, but if there was one they could get for $99, I'd be like, oh, heck yeah, I can do that. Apple accessories are way too ridiculously overpriced. Well, that's Apple. I don't think you're not the first one to discover that. Thinner profit margins on a TV stick, but then more units get sold equals still stonks. Thank you, Ryan. You could probably make that case. Like, at a certain point, if the price is too high, the addressable market is far lower, so the revenue in the margins might justify. You might be able to make more money through the TV dongle than the TV box. Ryan says, MacBook Air is honestly more budget than Mac Mini in my opinion, since you can take a MacBook Air and use it out of the box, whereas a Mac Mini takes accessories. Well, it's kind of the same thing with the TV dongle and the TV box. It's like, assuming you have a keyboard and mouse and monitor, obviously Mac Mini is a far better value. But if you don't have all those things, I'd agree. If you're looking for an all-in-one, MacBook Air is the best value. But if you're just looking for a computer and you can supply everything else yourself, M1 Mac Mini is pretty hard to beat. Yeah, we had MagSafe equals AirPower Mini. Exactly. Trail Miner, hey, moderator from our Discord. Appreciate it. Thank you for becoming a member. That's very generous of you. Can't imagine the profit margins on the MacBook Pro leather sleeves. They look so nice, though. Probably like 90%. Do I think the Apple Watch SE might get a price drop once the Series 3 finally gets discontinued? Asks Boomer Slayer. That's terrible. That's a great, terrible name. I really hope so. I have a feeling we won't. It would make a lot of sense in my mind, though, if like get rid of the Series 3 and then drop the SE to $199. But I don't know. The value of the dollar is not what it used to be. There's been a lot of inflation in the past year. So if anything, we should consider ourselves lucky if the Series 7 doesn't get a price hike. So I'll go ahead and say don't expect it to get cheaper, but it makes a ton of sense in my mind. If you just want to upgrade an existing setup, Mac Mini is great. Yeah, a lot of supporters today. I think it's just because everyone wants to hear the AirPower animation. The AirPower sound whenever someone becomes a member is very satisfying, I know. It just sucks because I love that sound effect, but I can't hear it. When I'm streaming, it doesn't play for me. I know you guys can, but all right. Mr. Arm says, I'm from Spain and I haven't seen anyone with the AirPods Max, maybe because they're overpriced. Are they more common in the United States? I've never seen someone in person with AirPods Max, but I see a lot of content creators with them. I've seen several people doing interviews and on video calls and collabs with AirPods Max, but that's about it. Mostly people that are intentionally in the tech community. But I don't think outside of that... Oh, God. Why do I keep doing that? This water bottle gets, like, pressurized, but it has that kind of nozzle where, like, you know, it won't spill unless you bite down and then the water lets through. But sometimes when I'm holding it, I'll just grab this part and then it like shoots water out. I was like, So now I got water bottle, got stupid water all over my whatever. I don't see AirPods Max in person though, to answer your question. And I think the time it takes to receive one delivery wise is much, much lower than it used to be. Like when it first came out, everyone was ordering them really quickly and they got back ordered really fast. But now they're all like next day shipping. So I have a feeling AirPods Max sales have practically flatlined. I could be wrong there, but I don't think they're very justifiable for the price. I think they're way too overpriced, honestly. And I could justify a super duper expensive pair of headphones if I felt like they were perfect. But I didn't feel that way with AirPods Max. It was like they're expensive and there's all these little issues I have with them. I was like, I hate the charge case, which isn't really a case, the bra looking thing. I hate the lack of power button. I hate the lightning, and I hate that it doesn't come with an audio jack cable, even though it's $550. And I hate that even if you try to not use that case, the metal on the cups like scratch next to each other all the time. There's great things about them, but I have all these little issues with them, which is why even if they were cheaper, I would have a hard time justifying them myself. But like, I think they'd be far more recommendable if it was like $400. $450 is a maybe for me. I've gotten a lot of people asking me since I've dropped my review, because more recently they've been out for a while. Oh, look at that. Ryan has the same water bottle. No, it's not. Mine's bigger. I don't mean to flex or nothing, but Ryan, these are not the same brand, but also I don't like this water bottle. This thing's supposed to store like that, but it doesn't. It'll like eventually pop itself back up. And then this plastic part, I took this mountain bike riding and this part fell off while I was riding and I had to find it and blow all the dirt off of it. It kind of sucks. I don't like it. It was free. It was a gift. Shout out to whoever gave this to me. No, it was actually a gift from my wife. The business she works for was like giving them away for, you know, I don't know, the good attendance or something. And she was like, hey, Drew needs a water bottle. I'll get him one. $1 Snake says, are AirPods Pro at least half as good as the Max? I'd say they're more than half as good. I mean, it's kind of hard to compare. They're like totally different products, considering one is over-ear headphones and one is an earbud. So there's a lot of people that definitely want over-ears, and there's a lot of people that definitely just want the buds. So I would say they're like 80% of the AirPods Max experience. The better thing AirPods Max has going for them is battery life and, depending on who you are, comfort. But yeah, there were people asking me like, okay, AirPods Max, I found them on sale for $450, or I found them open box for $400. Do you recommend them now? And I'm like, kinda, yeah. That's like I'm more likely to recommend it at that price, but mine says 750 milliliters on the bottom. I think the Tad said 24 ounce. 750. Oh, the bottom. That's what you meant. Mine's 1,000. Whoa. You want to trade? Mine. I don't like this one. It's falling apart on me. Let's see. AirPods Pro are shockingly good at active noise cancellation. They give my XM4s a run for their money on occasion. Yeah, if you're the type of person that doesn't really mind the form factor, I would say there's a big difference in market between people who want over-ears and people who want in-ear buds. But the fact that my AirPods Pro provide, yeah, I agree, amazing transparency mode, amazing active noise cancellation, and the only downside is because the batteries are so small, you're probably going to end up needing to replace them after like 2 to 3 years and spend another $250, where AirPods Max, maybe not so much because the batteries are far larger and you can last like 20 hours on a charge. Audio quality on the AirPods Max is great, but it still can't even do lossless, which is funny to me because Apple supports that on Apple Music, but you can't play it on any of their hardware. Any of their headphones, I should say. I guess the HomePods do support lossless, but I didn't notice a huge difference, honestly, in audio quality switching back and forth between AirPods Max and AirPods Pro, but I'm no audiophile. AirPods Pro have had really bad noise cancellation degradation. Proceed with caution. It's caused by stuff getting inside the mesh that's on the side of the pods facing the inside of the ear. I haven't noticed that, honestly. AirPods Pro are amazing apart from subpar battery. Yeah, I'd probably agree with that. This only barely fits in the water bottle spot in my backpack. Yeah, this doesn't fit in most of the cup holders I've found. Do you think that the AirPods 3 are a good alternative to AirPods Pro? I mean, they won't have ANC, so if you don't care about that feature, I guess. But in that case, AirPods 2 is probably a decent alternative at the same time. Probably going to get AirPods 3 for use at my desk where I don't need active noise cancellation. Yeah, that's fair. I really have enjoyed switching back to AirPods 2. The frustrating thing I ran into is like I started using them for more things. I didn't switch it to them until like 2 podcasts ago. My AirPods Pro died and I switched to AirPods 2 and I was like, whoa, these sound way better. And then I was listening to videos with them and basically doing everything headphone wise with AirPods 2. And I was just like, well, I'll keep the AirPods Pro around for when I need active noise cancellation, but that's about it. So last week, not this week, but last week I used, sorry for the lag. I can see it. Come on, Starlink. You can do this. It's been doing a tad better today than it has in the past weeks or so. But I did a podcast with Nick, couple podcasts, and I had my AirPods 2 in, and like after one episode of recording, I was already getting the bad sound, so that the battery was low, and I was like, oh, that's right. I bought these in March of 2019, so they probably got a lot of cycles on them, and I'm running into the battery life not being as good as they used to be problem. So trying to switch between AirPods when we're already recording the podcast and I'm on a FaceTime call and that kind of thing, that got kind of old. So there was one side of me there that was like, man, if I got AirPods Max, this wouldn't be a problem. But I can't justify the cost. It's just so much. my AirPods Pro battery life is still holding up fine, so I just decided, okay, for podcasts, I guess I'll use AirPods Pro, but for everything else, I guess for mowing the lawn, flying on a plane, and the podcast, I'll use AirPods Pro. But everything else, just like general headphones, like when I go running or bike riding or when I'm watching a video and my wife's taking a nap or something, I'll just use AirPods too. Upgrade the battery. Do AirPods support that? When do you think Apple will release the next-gen iPad Air, and will it have OLED? That's what's rumored, Levi. So it sounds fairly accurate. I don't know for sure if we should trust that, but it sounds like because it's not a 120 hertz iPad, they're comfortable going with an OLED display on that one. And I believe it should come out sometime next year. I don't think it'll come out this year. It's too late. But my guess would be either spring, maybe around March or April, or maybe at quadruple UDC. Or if maybe the supply chains are delayed and they can't get enough OLED displays in time, they might just push it off until iPhone 14. Are MacBooks going to be a yearly release like iPhones? I'm predicting no. I could be wrong, but I think similar to the iPad Pro, there's not going to be enough development finalized within every 12 months. I think there's obviously some exciting developments with the new MacBooks right now, making the switch to mini LED, and they're going to have, function keys, SD card slot, HDMI. So that's kind of like a big generational refresh. But after we get through all that, we got our ports back, we got the mini LED, we've got M1X chips in the MacBooks. I think after that point, they're not going to suddenly have a substantially better chip 12 months later. But similar to the iPad Pros, they don't get refreshed every 12 months. It's more like every 18 months. Sometimes 14 months or 16 months or somewhere in there. But my guess is no, they're not going to refresh them. Like, I don't think there's a MacBook Air rumored to launch in November, and that would be the 12-month mark. There's MacBook Pros rumored to launch in November, but I could see Apple doing something where they kind of leapfrog, like 1 year's for the Pros, 1 year's for the Air, 1 year, and then they go back and forth. So right now, we're going to get big MacBook Pros in a couple months, but we probably won't get a new MacBook Air until sometime next year. I'm guessing it would be maybe quadruple UDC 2022. Jay Money retracted his message. Trailminer says, out of curiosity, Drew, what's your average upload speed for Starlink? Average upload is really difficult to calculate with Starlink because it literally changes like all the time constantly. Like, I'm not saying like at one time of the day it's slow and another time of the day it's fast. I'm like within a minute I will see it go from 50 to 10 and everything in between. Like, you could do multiple speed tests within 5 minutes and get drastically different results. And I think that's because, the satellites are constantly moving and the dish is constantly trying to pick the best one. They're going to launch some more satellites in 2 days. September 13th, they're starting the new batch. These are upgraded satellites. They're not the same as the ones that are already powering this live stream as I speak. These ones have inter-satellite communication laser tech. Right now, all of the satellites that are up there, I'm compressing this video right now, sending it out of Dishy McFlatface, who is up there right now, and the satellite pushes that up. The Dishy McFlatface pushes it up to the satellite, and then the satellite pings it back down to a ground station, and that ground station then has to communicate with the YouTube server so that all of you guys can watch this. So laser satellites through Starlink will allow them to bypass the ground stations. So with the version 2 of these satellites, which there should be 60 of them going up in a couple days now, they're going to have my signal from Dishy McFlatface go up to the satellite, and then from that satellite to another Starlink, and then to another Starlink, to another one, and then down to the closest ground station, whichever one is closest to YouTube servers. So that should lower latency, improve stability, and allow for higher bandwidth overall. So basically, it should only get better from here on out. But I'm excited to see how much faster it can get because I know the end goal with Starlink is gigabit. That's like the speeds they're targeting, but it's still in beta, technically. And I think it's ready for prime time, but from what I've heard about Starlink, it sounds like the limiting factor is how many dishy McFlat faces they can produce at once. I know you can use lossless audio on AirPods Max if you buy the... No, they support it. That's not true. Apple specifically said that there's a digital to analog conversion that goes on because AirPods Max doesn't have an audio jack. They only have a lightning connector. So if you buy the 3.5 millimeter cable and then take that to lightning, there is a conversion of data from analog to digital, which means it's not true lossless. I remember reading an article about this, and that's why a lot of people were annoyed and frustrated, was because, you know, Apple didn't sell a pair of headphones that supported their own lossless connection. Why didn't the new Apple TV come with a magnetic connector like the new iMac? I don't know. That would require them to do something with the Apple TV, and they refuse to do that. Other than just the basic swap out A10X chip with A12, which is more of a side grade than an upgrade, really. That's the only thing. Design-wise, they can't touch it. You know, we can't make a small TV. We can't make a TV bar. It's just, we got to keep the box the same. No changing. Virgil says, you planning to make a long-term review video on Starlink, maybe in a few months or so? Well, I just dropped, like a month ago, I think, I dropped the Starlink 6 months later review. So I don't think I need to do a 6-month, 10-month, 11-month review. I might do a 1 year. But yeah, I mainly am waiting to see if things change. Like, there's a lot of talk that they're going to work on a cheaper version of Starlink, which somewhat gets me excited because, for one, I want... They're basically working on a different version of Dishy McFlatface that will be more scalable, that they can build faster. Right now, they said they can only build like 5,000 of them a week, and they want to get those numbers much, much higher so that they can deploy Starlink faster. And allegedly, they're working on this more rectangular-shaped dish that should be cheaper. And if that ends up making the entry price more affordable, then I would prefer that. But it also means that I have kind of an exclusive dishy. If they're going to stop making the kind I have, I'm the only one who's got the round one. Well, there was still 100,000 people that got the round one, but let's see. In your thumbnail, Drew, the TV dongle doesn't have a power plug. The Chromecast lineup would do less than the Apple TV dongle would, and they would have to use micro USB power supply. Yeah, you'd still have to... The one in the thumbnail is just... Nathan Matthews. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. The one in the thumbnail is just from Mac Rumors. It's a concept. I'm sure it would have to have a plug of some kind somewhere to get itself power, unless they found a way to get enough power out of HDMI, but I don't think that's possible. Nathan Matthews super chatted, says, but the bass on normal AirPods is so muddy and excessive, and the bad seal doesn't help. Pros still have too much bass, but it's much more bearable. I think this is a highly subjective thing, Nathan, because I wore AirPods Pro for like a solid year, and I didn't touch my AirPods 2 for a long, long time. And then suddenly, when my AirPods Pro died, I was like, oh crap, I need some new headphones. Let me grab the 2s. I put in the AirPods 2, and to me, it just sounded so much better. Like, the audio felt clearer, and I kind of like heavy bass. So what you find balanced in a good amount is probably just going to sound like not enough for me, because I grew up with different headphones or different preferences. So to me, I preferred the bass of the basic AirPods. And when I uploaded that video, I discovered a ton of people agree. There was a lot of comments suggesting, yeah, I tried AirPods Pro as well, and I was not impressed, so I went back to AirPods 2. I think they sound better. I know iUpdate said the same thing. Obviously, active noise cancellation is great, but the regular AirPods, what I've discovered after switching back to them now, is because of how the sound quality is pushed, and because of the heavier bass, thank you for the super chat, Alpha, you don't get much background audio when you're listening to things. When you're just normally talking, or not talking, when you're normally listening to things, not much external audio gets in anyway. It's kind of muted out by whatever video or music is playing. And obviously it has fantastic transparency mode by default, because whenever you stop playing, you can hear everything perfectly. And then you don't have to fuss around with noise cancellation or transparency. You put it on and you play music or you don't. And I prefer that, honestly. It's more simple that way to not have to make the choice between which one you want. We could measure the frequencies. Sound is subjective, but there are some hard metrics. I'm well aware AirPods Pro have a larger range of frequencies, but that doesn't instantly mean it sounds better to the listener. Because I'm not crazy, okay? I saw all the comments. I was not the only person with this realization. There was a ton of people going, oh, I prefer this. There's some people that like the cheaper sounding audio. Trail Miner says, I don't use AirPods Pro for good sound. I use AirPods Pro for ultra portable active noise cancellation. Yeah, it's definitely hard to find a pair of earbuds with a smaller charge case. I can't stand the open ear design. A seal makes for better sound, in my opinion. I've discovered it being more comfortable to have an open seal. Thank you, Levi. Appreciate the super sticker. He didn't say anything. Alpha asked, what's your next Mac purchase? Sorry, I didn't read that earlier. I still haven't really decided. It depends a lot on how fast the M1X chip is. If the M1X chip ends up being slightly faster than my iMac Pro and it's not that big of an upgrade, I'll probably just want to wait for the Mac Pro to get Apple Silicon, because I have to imagine that's going to use an even more powerful chip. And if the M1X chip is crazy fast, then I'll probably be more inclined to either get an M1X Mac Mini or a MacBook Pro. There's still some kind of big life plans we're making for next year, and where I work and how I work might be changing a lot. So I'm not entirely decided on if I'm going to be going with a laptop or a desktop, but it's going to depend basically a lot on the performance of the M1X. I'll say that much. But I'm basically in the market for everything at once. Maybe an M1X, maybe an iMac Pro, maybe a Mac Pro, or maybe a MacBook Pro. Pretty much anything I'm interested in mildly. Beats Flex sound better than AirPods 2 in my opinion. Wow. That's awesome if true. I mean, it's subjective, so. Let's see. Does your iPhone drain faster when paired with watch? I've never unpaired it from the watch, so I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe it sucked. Maybe the battery life's way better if I just get rid of my Apple Watch, but then I won't have an Apple Watch, so I'll be more frustrated. I found my ears get too sweaty, and it feels more uncomfortable to me to have to push in the rubber tips that like make this full seal. I can like hear my jaw more noticeably, and when I walk around, I notice all movements a lot more, opposed to the open-ended design of like regular AirPods where I put them on and I like forget I'm wearing them. I can't feel them at all. AirPods Pro or Beats Flex or that kind of thing, I never forget they're in my ear. It's quite noticeable. Have you ever considered the Powerbeats Pro as an alternative to AirPods? I thought I reviewed them a couple years ago. Is there a new pair I don't know about? Yeah, they're nice. It's just the charge case is too big. I'm making sure there's not what I missed. They're kind of old now, aren't they? Yeah. The charge case still doesn't support Qi, which is a big deal to me because I'm trying to be portless all the time. So you have to charge the case with a lightning cable, and I hate anytime I have to use a lightning cable, I get upset. I just start crying and break down, and I call my parents. Given the lack of difference between a Mac Mini and MacBook Air, I think docking a 16-inch would be better, even if you rarely work out of the house. Oh, I'm sure. Like, you can turn a laptop into a desktop if you need to. I'm not worried about that. Like, if I got a MacBook Pro, even if I was at home most of the time, I can still dock it. It's more of a question of cost to me, because I'm sure, without a doubt, the M1X Mac Mini is going to be substantially cheaper than the 16-inch MacBook Pro. So do I want to spend the extra money to buy a mobile Mac that I can occasionally take with me, or do I want to save my money and just get a Mac Mini that's very powerful, and I'll just provide my own monitor? Because I'm probably gonna hook up the MacBook Pro to an external monitor anyway. Trail Miner says, I spend an unnatural amount of time with active noise cancellation for my XM4s and AirPods Pro, so I've stopped noticing headphones on my head or in my ears. I just notice some more than others, I guess. I mean, obviously everything will blend into the background, but the AirPods 2 blend into my background faster than anything else. Portless and Type-C are amazing. Why hasn't Apple fully adopted those yet? Because they're stupid. There's no good reason to keep Lightning around, in my opinion. I don't buy this whole old accessories and old cables. You can still use them. It's like you're still shipping cables with all the new iPhones, Apple. If you made the switch to Type-C, you just throw in a USB-C cable. People charge it with that anyway. Start Select says he's using a 2015 MacBook Air docked at the moment. There you go. Yeah, I would definitely be using external monitors, so that's not what I'm worried about. That sound you hear when walking with AirPods Pro isn't really supposed to be there. ANC/transparency is supposed to cancel that. I've tried. I mean, I had the same problem with my brand new pair of AirPods Max, which ended up being defective. But my AirPods Pro, I noticed that the day I got them. It was not like a over time it got worse type thing. It was like, also I replaced a bunch of my AirPods because I was within the 1-year warranty. So I got new buds with, they were brand new. It wasn't used or anything. And I still notice it more obviously. I think transparency mode can't cancel out vibrations as well. That's just a fundamental difference between a hard universal piece of plastic that's resting in your ear that's open backed versus non-open backed rubber seal that locks in a bit harder. Let's see. Audiophiles don't even agree on what $3,000 headphones they think are the best. I wouldn't pay too much attention to sound quality arguments. Just try different things and use what you like. Yeah, good point, Ryan. I'm sure the audiophiles bicker all day about which $3,000 headphones sound better. It's all personal preference. Craig McGill says, my girlfriend hates my AirPods Pro. I can never hear her with ANC on. Maybe I have ANC on just so I can ignore her. Shout out to Craig's girlfriend. He's ignoring you. Make sure he switches to AirPods too. If you heard it on AirPods Pro and AirPods Max, wouldn't that indicate their ANC algorithm is flawed? I'm saying it's not something I'm picking up from the sound waves entering my ear canal. It's something I'm picking up from the device itself vibrating on my head. I don't think it's something you could cancel out. I know some people say it gets canceled out, but it's not something I think you can go up against. Let's see. What happened to the matte black MacBook Pro rumors? Also, do you think the redesigned M2 MacBook Air could have a space gray option? Love the content. Yeah, I really hope so, Rishi. I hope Apple hears enough backlash from the 24-inch iMac launch and a lot of people complaining and about the chin and the white bezels to just be like, at least make an option. You don't have to make it mandatory. But I would be a lot less annoyed by the 24-inch iMac if there was at least one black/space gray option without a chin. I know that's asking too much, but there's another Ryan in this chat. I was like, hold on, I didn't say that. Yeah. We have too many Michaels and Ryans. No Seal is better for fixing the sound thing, but it's like really bad if you have earbuds without ANC or have AirPods Pro to set off mode. I don't think it's that bad. I'm just saying, I tried it. I'm not just doing AirPods 2 versus AirPods Pro and saying, oh, AirPods 2. I exclusively used AirPods Pro for like a year and used nothing else, and then went back to AirPods 2, and I was like, these sound great. These sound way more comfortable. It sounds better. And because of the way the audio is balanced, it blocks out external sound fairly well, even though it's not active, and it's just the sound you're listening to over bearing the background sound. It's closer. It's right in your ear. The X in M1 is extra graphics / multi-core, right? What do you think gaming could be like? The fundamental issue with gaming, I've said this a million times, but the fundamental issue with gaming on the Mac will always be software related. It's all about developers not optimizing their game for the Mac. It has nothing to do with the hardware. That being said, M1X should have at least 2 times to 4 times better GPU performance than the M1 because it's rumored to have either a 16 or a 32 core GPU, whereas the M1 just has a 8 core GPU. But it's pretty good for an integrated one, and the games that are supported through Apple Silicon, I'm sure will play much, much better, 2 to 4 times better at least. But yeah, I don't think that just because it suddenly has people have been saying this for years. Like every year the Mac gets a new this and a new that, and everyone goes, oh, is it more of a gaming thing now? It's like, that was never the issue. What makes gaming hardware is exclusive titles. It has nothing to do with the performance. Or at least I should say very little. But I mean, like, Nintendo Switch graphics are practically trash compared to what you can get on an Xbox, a PlayStation, or even an iPad or an iPhone. There's lots of fairly cheap hardware out there that smokes the Switch, but the Switch sells amazingly well because it has a bunch of games people care about. So until Apple gets a bunch of games people care about, whether it's exclusive titles or some Ted Lasso of Apple arcade games or something that everyone loves to play that's power intensive, but it's safe to say, mobile games are very different from AAA games. It's very separate. So games that are optimized for Apple Silicon, yes, they will run much, much better. iPod needs to glow up, that little bloody back thing on the camera. What are you talking about? The iPod? Why? But Apple's gaming master plan confirmed. I know. Everyone told me I was wrong about that. I didn't watch the Max Tech video. I just made a video saying that Apple Silicon isn't going to change the gaming situation on Mac. And because Max Tech had just released a video about how this is going to change everything for gaming, I was like, is it though? People thought I was responding to him, and I legitimately did not watch the video. I didn't know really that it existed, but people thought it was a response video, and people were very, very angry that I suggested that. And they were like, Drew, no, you didn't watch his video. Go watch Max Tech. He said that this will change game. And I was like, this all requires people assuming that devs are going to optimize their games for Mac. I get what he was trying to say, the logic of, well, now all of your iOS and iPad games can easily be ported over to the Mac, and because there's a lot of revenue generated in mobile, big major game studios are going to optimize their game for the iPhone and then port it over to the Mac. And I was like, I don't think it's that simple. First of all, they're all mobile games, and I guess it's kind of nice to be able to play lots of mobile games that are optimized for your phone on a Mac, but the fundamental difference is people don't see the Mac as a gaming computer because it doesn't run the games that their PC does. And I don't see that changing. Doesn't matter how easy Apple makes it for the developers. They could make it on a silver platter and hold up, look at these tools, look how efficient it is, look how great you can make your games for the Mac. They don't see a big gamer market in the Mac division. And for that alone, they're going to have to dedicate more software engineers to updates, for troubleshooting, and figuring all that. It's not worth it to them for them to port it over. So unless Apple's willing to drop billions and billions of dollars on buying out game studios and bringing exclusive titles over, I don't see anything changing. Literally has nothing to do with the GPU of the Macs, the CPU. That's not the problem. Trailminer says, devs already don't make macOS exclusive games. They definitely aren't going to make macOS exclusive games for a new architecture. Yeah, agreed. Very much agreed. And I don't think porting over phone games to the Mac would change that either. Devs ain't going to optimize their games for Mac. They're all mobile, and Mac haven't been a games platform for over 20 years. They'd have to pay for devs to put games on there. Exactly. I agree. They would have to literally make it worth their while because, I mean, the game companies are right. I don't think it's their fault necessarily. I genuinely don't think there's a ton of gamers in the Mac community. There's some. It's a segment of it. I'm not saying there's no gamers, but I think the majority of the Mac audience would probably not be spending hundreds of dollars on games every year. So it's more of a community problem. It's not really a hardware problem. It's kind of this death loop. No one buys a Mac for gaming because Mac doesn't have games. Mac doesn't have games because none of the devs see any gamers over there. So there's not really a way to break that cycle unless, of course, the only way to reverse that is if Apple spent billions on it, and that's probably not a guaranteed success for them, so they're not going to bother. They'll always have their very light, basic arcade games. Ooh, you can play Silly Sasquatch on your iMac Pro. Yay. Now I can play Clash of Clans on my desktop. Whoa. Yeah, right. I don't think that would change the gaming situation much. Let's see. It's probably refreshing to get a new sound signature, too, if you've been using the Pro for that long. Maybe in 6 months you'll try the AirPods Pro and they sound better to you. I never felt like the AirPods Pro sound better to me, even though I was using AirPods 2 for years, and then I switched to the Pros. I was like, they're all right. They're okay. But personally, I think that I just genuinely like the sound better. And given how many people agree with me, I don't think it's because I was just tired of AirPods Pro sound. I don't think it's always that objective. I think there's a lot of things that literally are that subjective. You know, I can argue all day about why like a luxury restaurant makes a far better cheeseburger than McDonald's, and all of the ingredients are natural and organic, and it's homegrown and grass-fed beef, and it's so fantastic. And yet there will still probably be someone who prefers McDonald's, even to that $100 super fancy cheeseburger. I don't think they're lying. I think they just have a different taste preference. Same thing with headphones. Let's see. Easter eggs, yeah. A couple of things I would like to see is, number one, solar on Apple Watch to boost battery life and run basic text, and location function if the battery gets to 1%. Solar on a watch would get such little. You know how... I don't think people understand how inefficient solar panels are. That's why they really only make sense when they're like in the sun for 18 hours a day on your roof. If you put a solar cell that small, it would not... I don't even think it would charge a watch. It would slow down the battery life just a tiny bit, but not much. I could be wrong, but I genuinely don't think it would make that big a difference. But anyway, I do have to get going. I will be live streaming again soon. Of course, my reaction to the Apple event, and I'll live stream pre-orders. I'll live stream my friend replacing the SSD in his iMac, which he's excited to do. But appreciate all the super chats and the new members today. I had a ton of fun. I think I'll go clean my Dishy McFlatface now, and then I'll catch you all later. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.